What's up, everybody? This is Ramsey from Any Day DJ.
And this is Caleb with Salt and Light Visuals. And this is We Are Wed Talks.
We Are Wed Talks is a casual conversation with past and current wedding vendors to educate and inspire today and tomorrow's talent.
We are so stoked to have you hanging out with us today. So let's wed talk. What's up, everybody? We just wanted to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Live Oak Plantation.
The ultimate venue for weddings, gorgeous receptions, and leisurely day of preparation for the entire wedding. Party all in a one convenient location, reducing cost, planning, and stress. They are amazing staff, and they have been so gracious to us to actually allow us to do our podcast here. So we just want to say thank you, Live Oak Plantation. You can find them at
liveoakplantation.com.
Located at 7874 Beulah Road, Pensacola, Florida. Hello and welcome to We Are Wed Talks. Ramsey Coates,
Caleb Cummings, and today our special guest is Elizabeth Gelineau.
You got it.
I didn't butcher it.
You didn't butcher it.
I was so worried, guys, that I was going to completely just like destroy her name. So I was like, in my head, I was like, Gelineau, trying to remember it. So
Wouldn't be the first time.
I would say with that name, I bet people like in school hard.
Yes.
Everybody messed it up in school.
Yes. But it's okay. Actually, that's why my original business name was not my name, because it's so hard.
Yeah.
But then it became memorable because it's hard. So
that's true. So for everybody who doesn't know, can you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I am a portrait, wedding, and editorial photographer based in Mobile, Alabama. I have been in business for 7 years, just celebrated the 7th business birthday. Thank you. So we did a big week of giveaways on Instagram for that, just as thanking people for the support, and all of that stuff was really fun. And so I mostly shoot weddings, and probably editorial, I guess, are my two big things that take up the most of my time. And so that's kind of what led me here today. Was we met on a wedding.
Yeah, so we met at a wedding, probably about 3 weeks to a month ago now?
Yeah, and that was our first time to work together.
First time working together, and I'll say, so a lot of times you'll hear about, like, between photographers and videographers, like, they're all trying to get the same shot. So
the tug of war.
Yeah, tug of war, but working with Elizabeth, it was super smooth, and so generally I tend to call people call the photographer before the wedding just to kind of get that line of communication. She called me first, which was awesome because I'm used to like being the person to call and be like, "Hey, my name's Caleb. How's it going?"
Yeah, and that's me too. I always feel like I'm that first person that's reaching out, and it's kind of funny. I was like, "Oh, we're kindred spirits." Like, the first time we talked, and then on the wedding day, I kind of felt like we'd worked together before. I mean, It was just like very easy, and of course, we had great clients that made the day, even though it was a rainstorm like crazy. Yeah, because y'all had the bad weather coming over, right?
Yes, we had bad weather coming over, but so it was super helpful, like talking beforehand, especially like if it's photographers and videographers, because you kind of set that line of communication up ahead of time.
Totally.
You get to know the person, and you talk, and like we talk, and we're like, okay, cool. What is your kind of game plan? How do you shoot? How do you shoot? Yeah. And you kind of get to learn about each other. So I think that helps a lot. I know Ramsey is a DJ, so...
Yeah, I'm just sitting here. I'm like, okay, wow.
But even for you, I feel like for the DJ on the reception end of things, it's like as soon as I get into the reception, I'm always trying to find that person who is on the reception end, because it's kind of, you're the lead of the whole itinerary there. And I'm like, okay, like, do you have the same schedule as me? Like, or is the bouquet garter toss at a completely different time on your timeline? Because maybe it wasn't communicated. Sometimes those little things, people think, oh yeah, the reception, that's not important, but you know, as us, we're always thinking about when are we going to eat dinner.
Me too.
And so we don't want to like we don't want to miscommunicate with the band or the DJ who's doing the reception timing, because that's equally as important. So I usually get there and I'm like, okay, what time do you have for all these things? Are we on the same page? And
so our mantra is educate and inspire.
I love that.
So DJs that are out there, you are in charge. Yeah. So I love it when a photographer or videographer, because I'm so trained myself over the last 10 years. Yeah. They're like, hey, I'm like, listen,
I am not going to do anything without you.
Yes, I love that.
Don't do anything without the videographer and photographer.
Yes.
Once they arrive, introduce yourself, and then you're a team.
Yes.
You're together, because nothing's worse than doing the garter bouquet toss and the videographer and the photographer aren't there.
Right. Yes. And it happens. And I think sometimes people don't just, if you're newer in the industry, you don't realize the power of communication.
Yes.
My degree is in communications, which is really funny.
Wow,
I did
that's cool.
not think that I was ever going to be a photographer. I, went to college, picked a major, and it's funny because since I was in communications, and I'm like, oh my gosh, half of being a photographer is all about communications, or even more than half. Sometimes it's just like the communication with your client before, communication with other vendors before, on the wedding day. I mean, and that communication is such, I think it's the key to success. I think it's the key to a smooth wedding day, a key to great vendor relationships, because we're a community, we're all trying to serve the same people and make sure they have a great day on their wedding day. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things that I love, like the working with other people aspect. But I think if you're newer in the industry, sometimes you might not realize, like, it's so important just to check in. And find out, like, because I've found so many things just from a simple conversation of like, what? They didn't tell me that,
It's so crazy too. Like, I have couple crazy wedding stories. The ones where it's like I talk to the photographer and they're like, "Oh, you didn't know this, 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 and this," and I'm like, "They didn't tell me."
You're like, "Oh snap!"
You're like, "What?" The groom didn't know that he was actually getting married today, and I say that because it legitimately happened on one wedding.
What? Oh no!
Yeah, so communication is key.
Or like the father and daughter have a special dance that they're going to do, and I know I've got the song for them to do their normal dance. But then they're going to do
transition.
Yes. So it's always cool to be like, hey guys, they're going to do this.
And then
be ready.
So the first wedding I ever worked with you, which was here at Live Oak Plantation, which is a great venue. Check it out.
It's beautiful.
The father-daughter dance, they were doing a regular dance and then they were going into doing like a fun dance or whatever. I had no idea. And right before him, he was like, hey, heads up, here's what's going to happen. Which helped me so much because then I was able to mentally prep, like, okay, this isn't going to be the normal, like, slow dance,
Right.
So it definitely helps.
And I don't know how that is for video, but I know for me, like, for still shots, I approach it completely differently if I know there's going to be lots of big movement versus, like, if I know they're going to kind of just be in the center of the dance floor and kind of a more traditional, slower kind of dance with especially with like bride or groom or father daughter. And if I know there's going to be like, wow, there's some choreography going on, or they're going to be very energetic, it changes how I shoot. So especially if they're going to bust out from something that looks like, oh, the traditional thing, and then you have that wow moment. Like you want to be, the preparation is the other thing about what we do. I mean, it's just prepare, and then then you can get. That's how we get sometimes the stuff we get is just because we knew we had like that little anticipation that we could do. So
I think it's awesome how you have your degree in communication and you definitely crush it. Even like working on the wedding day, like communicating with clients is super good. So tell everybody what's kind of your prep process for weddings.
Yeah, so it kind of starts like the communication side of things. I start like from that first meeting. So when someone meets with me, like I want them to know like I'm not a photographer that's gonna like you're signing on the dotted line and then I'm showing up on wedding day. That's if you want that, you need to find someone else, because I'm kind of like want to be part of that process with you. I start talking about timelines super early, like even in the consultation meeting, because I think it's something that's really overlooked, like at the beginning stages. And I even asked, like at the beginning, are you going to have videography part of your day? Because then I know, okay, sometimes that means we need more time overall in the timeline for like how many hours of coverage they need or something because of, other factors like adding in video and depending on who the videographer is they're looking at. Like if it's someone that I've worked with before, like we tag teamed it the whole day and we worked off of each other, but then some people have a different style and they need their separate time with the couple, and I want to respect whatever the other vendors need. So I start that process early on. If there is a planner, I love to like reach out to the planner early on and say, hey, I'm working with this bride and groom and I want to make sure that we're touching base early on. And so I've had great relationships with planners. I love wedding planners. So like they just like make everything
They
flow
do.
smoothly. But it's
We say that every time we have a wedding planner, we're
yes.
always like, thank you for doing
what
what you do.
everybody needs a wedding planner.
Everybody needs a wedding
Everybody
planner.
needs a wedding planner.
Get a wedding planner.
Yeah, please. So, because it's like there's always these little things that no one realizes, and it's almost like it all kind of starts to compound at the end of the day. And then, like, when the bride and groom ride off and they're like, bye, we love you. And then mom's like, we have to load all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like that's when it kind of hits the reality. But if I'm working with a planner, I talk with them early on. I bring them into that communication
awesome.
stream. And then my prep process is really kind of like once they've done their booking, usually we're doing an engagement session kind of between the booking and the wedding day. But the whole real prep starts about 90 days before the wedding. And that's when I send them a very detailed questionnaire. They fill that out. I kind of go through that and I can see a snapshot at that point of like, what does this day look like? What is important to them? What's the dynamics of the family? How many people are in this wedding? And sometimes I know a lot of those things beforehand just from our casual conversations, but really kind of getting serious into the timeline at that 90 days before. And then I try to have it finalized by the month before the wedding so that last month, hopefully I'm not checking in with them, stressing them about, because I think like if you have to think about those things like too close to the wedding day, you start getting like, like, you know what I mean? And especially if you don't have a planner, because then all your vendors are asking you for that, and they are usually wanting to base it off the photography timeline. So I kind of, get that together. We sign off on it usually about a month before.
That's awesome.
And then I check in with them on wedding week and just like, hey, is final check-in. Again, here's your finalized timeline. Has anything come up that I need to know about?
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like in their mind, I feel like that timeline is really important. They never go exactly, they never go exactly according to the timeline. You know that. But it's just having the guide. It's like, I say it's like your game plan. Like what sport team goes and plays a game without a game plan? Indeed. You always have a game plan. You always have warm up and practice, and you have your game plan. And things are going to go awry. The dress might, the zipper might get hung up on the lace of the dress, and you're there for like, you thought it was going to take 10 minutes and now all of a sudden it's 30. And I have had that happen probably more times than I can count, is a zipper issue with the dress. So
that's no fun.
Not because the dress didn't fit, but because something in the alterations or something in just the nature of that moment. It's like that's the hold your breath moment, and then there's like some little fabric thing. I had that happen recently on a wedding, and I told the bride, I said, this is not the first time that this has happened. Like it
happens more often
than not. So so that's kind of my pre-wedding process, is kind of just like really talking about that timing early on.
That's super cool. I love like how far ahead you prep for stuff.
Well, over prepare.
You can't over prepare. Like literally, like me and him were working an event one time, and I was like, cool. So we need to be leaving by 9:00. It's like 8:30. I'm sitting there like all my stuff packed and ready to go. Yeah. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm ready, bro. Like we gotta leave in 30 minutes.
I know, right? I have this whole routine like for the morning of wedding days, and it's really like it's hard sometimes because sometimes there's things happening on a wedding day. Like if you don't start shooting until 2:00, there's sometimes things that I would like to go do or just fun things. But I really I've found for myself, and it's just how I am. I have to mentally prepare myself. Yeah. So I don't do anything that morning, for the most part. And I'm like have this whole routine of like I have morning coffee. I go through my timeline. I'm like looking at the names. If there's like 14 bridesmaids and 14 groomsmen, I'm probably not going to be able to remember everyone's name. But I'm like refreshing so that I'm in that mental preparedness. And then I just feel like that helps. Don't you feel like that helps when you are there in the moment and things are kind of like, because there's always like little bumps in the road. You kind of feel like it's okay. I prepared. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, I have 4 children. So on Saturday morning, I'm like, y'all have to go.
Yeah, right.
Everybody's got to go.
Right.
I've got to get my mind ready.
Yes.
I love y'all, but I've got to get my mind ready for this because this is a big day.
Yes.
And, you got to knock it out the box. We talked about that.
True.
We have like one shot. You can't go
Exactly.
you can't go back and be like, oh, I missed this shot. Can we do this
Right.
again?
The first kiss
Right.
again real quick.
Right.
No.
No.
You get it right the first time.
I know.
So what you said earlier was interesting, and y'all fill me in.
Yeah.
When y'all go off and we don't see y'all and we're at the reception,
Yeah.
y'all are doing two different shoots because you have your plan and
Yeah.
you have your plan.
Mhm.
Wow, I didn't know that. I thought it was like y'all all kind of like do together.
Well,
Let's
it
say-
depends on the. When you say it depends on the
It
videographer.
depends on the videographer and it also depends
Yeah.
on the photographer. So,
Yeah.
like, whenever we were together, we just tag teamed the whole time.
Yeah.
And so, for me, I tend to let the photographer take it because I feel like the photographers can sometimes be more picky. You aren't more picky. But no, I mean, really. And so for me, I'm a little bit more flexible. So I'm like, I'll
I feel-
flex to
yeah.
these people. But however, like, whenever we were shooting, I felt like she did a lot of posing. And then whenever she was like changing the system, she'd be like, you hopping in to get what you need. And so it's really nice. And then a lot of times, too, you can feed off each other. So, like,
Yes.
she may post someone up and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I love this, but let's do this. And then there's like, oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
And I love that. That's again, that communication is just verbally versus if like I'm not saying anything, like I'm not letting him know, hey, I'm changing a lens, like it's going to be a minute, and I like to shoot with prime lenses, so I change lenses a lot through a wedding day. And I do think that like for us, like we worked really well together and we like totally tag team the whole day. And I love when other people like kind of let you know what they're thinking, and I'm not just like, Caleb's not just like standing over there like to the side like not talking the whole time. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know what he's thinking. Like he's like, oh, that looks great, or like, oh, I would like to get a shot from over here when you're done. And that's again that communication, without neither one of us is like, stepping on each other's toes in that way. It's just like letting
Yeah.
like, hey, can I grab this before you move them? And,
Yeah.
and so what I mean was like, as far as doing separate is sometimes within a timeline, other videographers or other photographers, maybe they light things a little bit differently. Style wise, their styles just might be a little bit different. And then they need like separate time with bride and groom from me because maybe they want to have their own posing direction. Maybe like I felt like our styles blended really well together, which is another important thing like within hiring a team for a wedding day is it is kind of important for your photography and videography to kind of jive with the creative approach a little bit. Because then that's only going to elevate if we are tag teaming it and we're kind of on the same, I felt like everything that we were each doing was so complementary in our styles. And I've had that with a lot of other videographers too. But then sometimes, the style of shooting is just so different that it does mean that you need to dedicate separate time within the timeline.
And if you do, that's fine. It's just like
It's
you
totally
said before.
fine,
It's just
yeah.
like that communication ahead of time.
Because you have to know that, like, because we talked before extensively, like, about, like, how do you, how do you like to do things, and for you to get, because it's all about each vendor being able to deliver what they promise.
And we're
their
all
client.
a team, and
Absolutely.
we all have the same goal is to deliver stuff for our clients.
Yeah,
and
for
we're all super
sure.
passionate. And I love, communication is key.
Absolutely,
Can't stress it enough.
I
I'm so
know.
glad you talk about that because I feel like it's something that a lot of people don't talk
Overlook.
about enough.
Yeah.
Like even on wedding days, like whenever we were getting ready to do stuff, like if she was getting a shot, like I said, I'm very flexible, so I can work around. So I'd literally be like on your left side, on your right side, directly behind you. And that way people know, you know what I mean? It's just that constant communication. Like when we're getting ready to go up the aisle, we're backing up, and so I'm on a gimbal, so I'm keeping pretty steady. As I'm backing up, I keep checking them, like we're clear, we're clear.
Yeah, and you know what's so funny about that is I've had on wedding days when I've been working with someone where we have that communication, where a guest or someone else that's there, maybe somebody in the wedding party, they'll say, y'all must work together all the time.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll be like, actually, this is our first time to work together. And it's because they hear and observe that communication. And that's really like, that communicates like, yeah, we're on the same team and we're serving you together. Like it's like if you have a heart for service, which I think you can't be in this industry if you don't have a heart for service.
True story.
It's really hard work.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the funny thing too is like when I had my first job I ever had when I was in college was at a photography studio. I had never taken photography. I'd never picked up really a camera other than a point and shoot camera. But I saw from the non-photographer side how hard work this industry is. And that's kind of why I shied away for a while. When I got into photography and was a hobbyist for a while, I shied away from that professional aspect, because I was like, that's a hard work. It's hard work. You have to really 100% love it. You have to 100% want to do it. But really the other element is you have to have that heart for service, because the days are long and they're not always easy. You know, our wedding we had together had crazy weather. We were at a beautiful
The humidity was like 1,000%.
And we really had to shift gears, but it's like our desire to serve our clients well, and I felt like we both were on the same page with that. It really made it to where like we were making the best decisions for what we could deal with those circumstances.
And I think too, it's just kind of like remembering it's a community, right?
Yeah.
Like we all, you know what I mean? It's not a competition on a wedding day. I mean, I've had those weddings before, whenever you can, you know, some vendors may feel like or seem like
the territorial.
It's like a competition, but it's like, no, like we're all in this together. Yes. We're all here to do the same job. Like, I remember on the wedding that we shot together, it was really bad humidity. It's like when we got outside, like it literally took one of my lenses like 25, 30 minutes to come down, like, because it was just fogged so bad. And so like we went out there and I was like, it's going to take a hot minute. She's like, let's do first look inside and then we'll push back out here to do the big bridal party. And it's just like that, like being flexible to work with people and know like, hey, listen, this day is not about me as a vendor. It's about our bride and groom. We got to do what's best for them. Absolutely. And if what's best for them is best for the photographer right now, for the DJ, for the caterer, we're going to do it. We're a team. We're going to make it work.
Yeah. And but then back on that timeline thing too, if we hadn't been on the same page with the timeline before, we wouldn't have been able to adjust that spur of the moment. And like, that's the beauty of it. So when you can work together as a team, I love moments like that. They make me really, really enjoy my job. Like when we, you know,
it makes a day
together.
Like that day, I was there for 8 hours, and it literally felt like we were there for maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah,
it was such a good day. Communication was up.
It's a great day.
No one was really stressing. Like those bad weather, but like even then, it was just like everybody was on top of everything. It was good.
It was a great day. It was fun.
Well, it is time to wrap it up. We're gonna have to you back again for sure.
Talk too much.
No, you did great. You did great. It was awesome. I love listening and learning, and once again, educate and inspire. So I'm over here getting educated about the whole communication and how y'all work, and I'm just like, wow, okay. But before we leave, where can people find you on the Instagram, on the Facebook?
So I'm on Instagram. It's at Elizabeth Gelineau. You'll probably have to put that printed somewhere.
We will definitely get that information from you.
It's very hard to spell. And then I'm on Facebook at Elizabeth Gelineau Photography, and my website is elizabethgelineau.com.
Okay, cool.
That's where you can find me.
Well, thank you for coming on We Are Wed Talks.
Enjoyed it.
I'm Ramsey Coates.
I'm Caleb, and until next time.
Hello. We just want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, Keyside Visuals. Keyside Visuals for any of your video content creation needs. Check out Keyside Visuals at keysidevisuals.com. Hey. This is Ramsey.
And this is Caleb.
Caleb, why you look so worried over there?
Because you were looking kind of worried.
You know why I'm worried? Because I want to make sure if they're enjoying this podcast that they go rate and review. And I want them to go rate and review us. Please rate and review us. I'm going to say it again. Rate and review us. Give us those 5 stars. That's why I look worried.
Where can they rate and review us at?
On Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any place that our podcast is at, they can rate and review us.
Even on YouTube.
Even on YouTube.
I bet a lot of people don't know that we are on video on YouTube.
Oh, you better check it out. We are Wed Talks on the YouTube. Can we get some of that YouTube love?
Yeah.
Okay.
We need it.
So rate and review us. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, any place where We Are Wed Talks, and on YouTube. And I will not have this worried look on my face.
Boom. Thank you so much for joining us this week on We Are Wed Talks.